So the mould is then, once they're cooled, this is an example of one of those moulds. So you can see here, this is the bronze, and in here is one of the sculptures flora and fauna. So the inside
Foundry doing this work?
Foundry does all of this.
So this is each piece, so...
I leave all the bronze work to the foundry, because if I just don't have the amount of time possible to do all of this. I mean, literally there's about 60 hours work in each piece, just in the finishing. And so it's just not possible for me to create, model, mould, and all of that. So this whole process is the industrial side of it, which the foundry. So that's why I have two guys that just do my work. But so you can see, you have to be careful not to bruise the sculpture, but
after this process happens, what happens if you open it up and you see a crack or a dent or something like that? What happens then?
It depends on how bad it is. There are lots of things that can go wrong potentially. You can get what they call a short pour, which is where, you know, because the whole, it's, if you look here, you can, there's a process. See what it's designed so that they pour in there, and the bronze goes down, fills up, and comes up here. That they're called runners and risers. So the bronze will fill up and escape, and the air escapes through there. Sometimes that gets blocked, and so the bronze can't escape. And then if there's a hole, if it's a bad pour, then they have to start again. Or they can sometimes make a new piece that they will weld on. But if it's too bad that they...
That's the word.
That's the word. But this is... you can see just here. So all of this has to be cut off and detailed.
So you are, what's involved?
Yeah. So there we have, that's, so that, but there's another piece that is joined onto there. They can't, this piece is hollow. You can see there that there's the same stuff inside. Some pieces are cast solid, but most are hollow.
That's what I can't understand. Can I? Might be stupid, but how come the cast is hollow?
Yeah.
Is there a mould within the mould?
When they dip it, it's a liquid. This shell, well, it starts with the wax. You see, let me just show the wax. Yeah, this is the bit like it is a little bit
molten metal
goes on the wax. It's a good question, but no. Because we all think of the bronze being solid bronze.
Yes,
it's
right.
math. Yeah. No, it's not. It's the actual shell. It's like your skin around your body.
Yeah.
What's holding it in that shape?
this piece is hollow.
That's the outside.
You can see in there that. So what happens? It starts at that point there. You pour wax into a mould. wax freezes. So if you imagine the wax is poured in, it freezes around the mould, you know, on the outside. And then pour that.
Like an Easter egg, yes.
And it leaves a coat, same as the chocolate Easter egg, yeah, on the inside of the mould, but it's going to be hollow. Well, but what happens when it comes to this mould making process? Unfortunately, I've joined this together, but I should have left it separate. The ceramic shell, which is this stuff, is a liquid. So it goes not only on the outside, but it goes on the inside too. So it goes inside and it fills up in there. So you're left with a channel like that.
Yes.
Yes.
And then the wax is melted, leaving the...
And then when the wax is melted, then you're left with that little cavity.
Just showing you on that example again. It's giving you that wall.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, so that's, you see how it's on the inside too?
Yes, I see that. Yeah.
Okay, so, and then when you turn it up like that and heat it up, the wax will pour out, leaving you with that cavity. And then the bronze then goes in and fills where the wax has gone, and it's the lost wax.
And what is that? Because it takes a lot of heat.
It does. It's called well, I'm not sure exactly of the, I mean, we call it ceramic shell. It's a mixture of grog, which is like flour clay, and other liquids that act as a glue, and they build up this. So they've got a great big vat, and they're dipping the pieces, letting them go hard, dipping it again, and so you build up that.
So Steve, as far as this goes, this technical business here.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to have a go, but when you start talking about this sort of stuff, I just go, oh, no.
Well, the foundry do all of this.
Yeah.
I mean, it would, you know, a lot of people say, oh, why don't you get a foundry? I produce enough to have a foundry, but the trouble is you've got to employ people, you have a crew, you've got all the production issues.
Well, that's highly technical, isn't it, to do that and then work out what flues are going and how you're going to fill it from the top and not get any bubbles.
Well, that's why you employ a foundry to worry about those things. That's why I just worry about the ideas.
Okay.
I worry about the ideas, and I worry about the finish, how it looks at the end.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there's so much there. There's so much to do. I mean, even now, you know, there's not enough time for me to really look after everything. By the time I have exhibitions and organise, and you know, it's like a, you know, dare I say, it's like it's like a business you have to run, and I have to pay all these people as well. So it's, you know, it's a major exercise to just keep the whole machine running. But the technical side, you know, I've been doing it for 40 years, so it's sort of second nature to me now. But and knowing how to produce or model something so that the foundry can produce it properly is another challenge. So, and as you can see, the pieces are all made in sections. That sculpture's made in 4 sections.
Okay.
This one's in 2. I have, you'll see, it's called T-bird because there's lots of teacups on top. They're all cast separately, and then we attach them afterwards. So, and so that's why each piece comes out differently. And I also patina, most sculptors don't patina. Patination means the colouring of the bronze. So, patination is another technique which I think we're sort of ready to move on to. Patination are chemicals that you can put onto a bronze to give different finishes and effects. I try to equate it to this, you know, an artist asking another artist to paint for them. You go to a foundry, most sculptors will ask the foundry to patina your bronze. So the foundry will say, well, what colour do you want it? And from the point of view of the foundry, they want to make it as easy as possible, so the sculptor will say, well, what colour's going to have it? And they'll say, red, brown or green. So, he says, all right, red then. So they do it red, and what ends up is, as you see, so much work, well, from my perspective, you see so much sculptural work that is monotonal. It's all dark, it's black, there's no energy to it. And so I just said to the foundry, I can't do this, I can't tell someone else to do what I want to do to my sculpture. So I ended up spending about 18 months learning and feeling confident with the process, because patination is a process of painting with heat, really. And painting with heat has its challenges, and you don't quite know what you're going to end up with sometimes. It's unpredictable, but I've learned to control it to a point, and learned to be bold with colour. And I think sculpture, one of the college lecturers would say to you, you've got to be true to your material, which basically means you show the material for what it is rather than painting over it, things like that. And I agreed with that until I sort of started realising that I wanted to put colour onto it. But colour can destroy the piece. You can make it look really tacky, overdo it, so the controlling feature, the controlling factor of it is self-discipline. And I don't know if I've got much of that, but you learn by your mistakes and you sort of go back. And someone I once read that creativity is all about being prepared to make mistakes.
If you make a mistake with patoonery, do you then come back and patoon around?
You have to sandblast it back and start again. So it goes back, and because patination goes in everywhere, so the only way to start again is to, I've got the foundry have a sandblasting booth, so the piece goes back in and we sandblast it, but then we have to repolish it and things like that as well. So you don't really want to do that. But that's also a challenge of being comfortable with what you want to do, is the fact that you lose 3 or 4 days in your creative process. If you get it wrong, you've got to go back and sort of start right from the beginning and repolish it and things. So, but that's just something I've gotten used to.
How long would it take to polish a piece that big?
Well, polishing is probably a 2 or 3 hour job to polish it the way I'd like it, because you want to get into all the little. I've got lots of some of the tools that I use to get in and polish the area, and some areas you want it to remain sandblasted, because those areas are where the colour are, and the colour has to grip onto the bronze. So.
Is it just heat, or is it chemicals too?
It's a mixture of chemicals and heat.
Yeah.